Welcome to the Times Are Changing podcast. My name is Chase. I'm joined here with Zach. We are the COO and CEO of Golden Aspect. This is a podcast about cutting-edge strategies in digital and social media marketing.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about why consistency is number one on social media and take a look at a case study of how Hertz car rental ruined their social by taking a month off from posting. We're also going to discover how different companies are navigating their coronavirus messaging on social media. Without any further ado, let's jump right in.
We first want to start off this episode talking a little bit about consistency and its importance on social media. Obviously, as most people understand, for any social media account, uploading consistently and being active is important. But do you really know how important it is? That's something we want to discuss in this episode. Talk a little bit more about how important it is, what some of those specific upload quotas might look like, and also talk about some of the negative impacts if you aren't having a consistent posting schedule on social. Zach, you want to tell us a little bit more?
So, just to give a little bit of background on this entire topic and how this works, because a lot of it feeds into how the Facebook and Instagram sorting algorithms for posts are set up. Right away, in case you don't know, these days when you post a photo to Instagram actually only shows your post to about 10% of your followers, and then depending on how those people engage with that post, it will either be shown to the rest of your followers or it won't, based off of how much engagement it gets in around the first hour. And if more of those people start to engage with it, then they'll push the post and show it to all of your followers, which is a little bit backwards from the way that you think it should work, but it's an important thing to think about when talking about this consistency on social media. Also, you might notice when you jump on Instagram, the posts that you see at the top of your feed most of the time, if you haven't been on, say since yesterday, are posts from accounts that you regularly engage with. And you're then part of that initial testing group that the Instagram algorithm is trying to send out and decide whether or not to send this post to the rest of that person's followers.
As you can see from how this algorithm works, it makes sense that taking long breaks or posting irregularly is terrible for engagement. And just to see how bad it was, we did this actually on our own accounts. We took a bit of a break, and when we came back, even we were surprised at how low some of the engagement had gone. And that's just a result of Instagram saying, hey, this isn't an active account. They don't have an active posting schedule. There's no reason to promote them as much. And they're not going to show up in your followers feed. And they're also not going to show up in the sort of organic explore categories as often either. And that's really, really important, especially when you're talking about a business where often a lot of the engagement is also going to come from people that aren't following your account. And the entire goal is to gain new followers, to have people that are outside of your follower range still interact with your posts. And so that's why it's extremely important to be active when you're posting on social. It's very important to have an upload schedule, to stick to something consistent. That way Instagram knows when you're going to post and they're able to promote it better to your followers and then get it out into the broader Instagram or other social platform ecosystem.
Leaning into that idea of consistency doesn't just help your social media profiles algorithmically, but also from a follower basis. In fact, the algorithms and your followers kind of work hand in hand to decide whether or not your profile should be being pushed out to more people or should be being buried underneath a bunch of other profiles. For example, if you have a really erratic posting schedule, you're taking long breaks, that kind of stuff, you're not going to be interacting with your followers on a regular basis, which means that they're going to be far less likely to interact with your posts when or even if they do actually pop up in their feed. Taking long breaks from posting allows your followers to basically forget about your account and forget about your business, so that even if they do see one of your posts coming back after a long break, they're probably going to be significantly less likely to interact with it.
Yeah, and this is important when you're talking about touch and maintaining touch with your customers, with potential customers. It's having your brand and your brand image in their head more often. That's one of the biggest benefits of social, is that you can be putting your brand in front of your customers and potential customers every single day. You have that opportunity to post something, they'll look at it, they'll see your brand, they'll interact with it. And that's something that social provides that almost every other platform doesn't. And so it's very important that you take that opportunity to maintain that high touch and at the same time helping yourself in the algorithm.
I mean, there's literally no way to make a better connection with your potential audience than giving them content and stuff to interact with on a daily basis. Like Chase just mentioned, it also hurts you algorithmically if those people aren't getting consistent interaction with your content. If you let it go long enough without putting something in front of their faces about their brand, like I said, chances are they might forget about you. And if you do post again and it does show up there in their feed and they don't interact with it in any way, that's going to hurt the engagement and the exposure on your posts, especially if they were somebody who used to interact with your account a bunch and then you took a long break. They forgot about you. You posted again, they saw it, scrolled right past it, nothing happened. Instagram is going to value that person's opinion on your content. And if they are in that initial 10% that post is shown to and they don't interact with that post, your post isn't going to get shown to any more of your followers, let alone pushed out to anybody who's not following you. So having this sort of consistent, like Chase is saying, high touch approach with your customers, getting in front of their faces with your content on a regular basis, getting them used to seeing your brand and your type of content in their feeds on a regular, recurring basis is absolutely critical to being able to effectively grow your accounts.
The next thing we want to jump into, just to sort of illustrate everything we've been talking about, is a case study with Hertz car rental. And before we jump into this, there's one quick side note that I want to make that we're going to dive into in another episode. But it's this idea that not only should you be posting consistently, but the types of content that you post also plays a big role. If the types of content you're posting isn't engaging, people don't like it, people aren't going to interact with it. If it's not an engaging photo or an interesting video, people are going to scroll past it. And so it's very important that in addition to maintaining this consistency, you also post content that people actually want to see. But that's for another episode. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Hertz car rental. So if you guys read our newsletter or read our blog on our website, you can see this on your screen, but we're just going to explain it a little bit on this podcast so you guys have an idea of what we're talking about. So Hertz car rental was posting fairly consistently up until March 15th of this year, at which point they decided to take a break until April 22nd. So they took almost an entire month break. And what they did on March 25th was make a post about free car rentals for healthcare workers. This is a really cool post idea. It did quite well on their social media. You could see that they were averaging almost 400 likes. It got almost 300 comments and over 700 shares. Did very well. And you'll notice that on the post they made on April 22nd, that engagement dropped to only 43 likes, 12 comments, and 10 shares. So that's a decrease and almost 90% in post engagement, over 95% decrease in comments, and almost 99% decrease in shares. And it's pretty obvious, and this is an excellent example of the fact where if you're not posting consistently, if you decide to go cold turkey and take a break, your account, your engagement, your followers, it's all going to take a hit, and it's really going to hinder all of the work and the good, consistent work you've been doing before that.
And that feeds right into the idea of momentum on social media. Consistency is key when building momentum in all of your social media campaigns. When you post consistently for a long period of time, you have high quality of content. You start to grow your followers. Instagram and Facebook start to favor your accounts. They start to see that you have a consistent schedule. They're going to start promoting all of your stuff through search results, Instagram Explorer, hashtags. The more credible you look as an account, the more you're going to be showing up for all of these other people, because Facebook and Instagram want to give good accounts to people who they think will enjoy that account's specific content. So over time, if you do have a consistent posting schedule, you're going to end up building up a lot of positive momentum for your brand through these social media accounts. And that momentum can either continue or it can completely stop and go straight back to square one if you take a break like we just saw with Hertz. I mean, a 90% decrease in an overall engagement is absolutely horrific. And it's not like Hertz is just going to be able to start uploading again and get all of their engagement right back to the way that it was. That's not how it works. At this point, that momentum is gone. So now they're going to have to start over basically from scratch and build up all of that momentum, try to get their posts back into their followers' feeds, try to get their followers used to seeing their content on a regular basis again until they can finally be promoted out in the way that they were before they let all of the momentum go away. So that's just another reason why this type of consistency, posting consistency, is so crucial on social media. If you stop and allow all of your momentum to fall away, you're going to be starting over from scratch again.
This episode of Times Are Changing is brought to you by Golden Aspect, our company. We're a digital media and marketing agency that specializes in a one contact for everything social approach and completely integrated marketing campaigns.
We emphasize high touch, strong client relationships, and fully integrated marketing approaches. Each of our marketers are proficient in every service we offer and are reachable 7 days a week by text or call. This reliable communication and interaction with your business ensures your contact will be equipped to handle anything you need anytime you need it.
If you want to learn more about what Golden Aspect can do for your business or a friend's business, please feel free to check out our website, www.goldenaspect.com. That is www.goldenaspect.com.
1, 2.
So, as we established in the first part of this podcast, the absolute worst thing that you can do on social media, especially in a worldwide pandemic, is go dark, right? We established that. You don't want to just turn everything off. Especially in times like these, it's really important to maintain a social media presence, even if it means changing your marketing angle and messaging from what you've been doing in the past.
But it's important that you don't change your messaging too much. And this is something that we talked a little bit with our clients that we work with, is when something like this happens, when a black swan event like a coronavirus pandemic hits, it's natural for people to want to say, okay, we need to rethink everything. We need to change our messaging. We need to be empathetic. We can't come across in the wrong way. And this is totally understandable, but it's also very important to remember why people are following your account. People want to see that you care about what's going on. They want to see that you care about them, but they're also following you for a reason.
Especially right now, people are spending more time on social media than they really ever have before. The vast majority of the country is locked inside and spending a lot of time on their phones, which means that there's a lot of opportunity to keep your brand in front of your followers as long as you're actually putting out content. Like Chase was saying, keeping to the general idea of the brand messaging of what you had before, the reason why people actually followed your accounts. Just because there's other stuff going on doesn't mean that you can't change aspects of your approach. However, there's a serious opportunity right here for the amount of people that are currently spending tons of time on social media to get their eyes on your brand in addition to everything else that they're looking at.
And it's important, especially when events like this happen, to change your marketing angle a little bit, but not too much. And walking that line is a very delicate balance. It's something that no one has ever perfected, but we want to give a few examples of this because it's important to sort of understand how some companies are going through and managing their messaging in this coronavirus pandemic. And we think it'd be interesting for you to learn a little bit more about two different companies' takes on this. It's going to be Coke and Pepsi. And I think that this will illustrate at least two different possible approaches to this, both of which you'll note still continue to push their brands and doesn't completely change what Coke and Pepsi are all about. And that's very important. That's something we want to hit on over and over again, is that with marketing, you need to lay out a plan and follow that plan and make changes when needed, but not change everything. And that kind of goes back to this consistency thing as well, is that it's also important to be consistent, but change your marketing when needed, but not too much. And that's what we're going to see with Coke and Pepsi. Now, again, for anyone that reads this on our newsletter or on our website, you'll be able to see this more clearly. But for everyone who's just listening, let me explain a little bit more. First, with Pepsi, when this pandemic hit, they immediately changed their marketing. But like I said, they didn't change it too much. What Pepsi did was change their marketing to start sponsoring events, charities, and other things that bring people together and inspire positive action in the world. At the same time, they were very cognizant to maintain the Pepsi brand, to maintain their logo, even including photos of their products. And in that way, Pepsi is able to illustrate that they're aware of what's going on in the world, to promote some positive action for what's going on with coronavirus, and at the same time, maintain their brand, maintain their image, and maintain their interaction with their followers.
Coke decided to take a little bit of a different route and distance themselves pretty far from the actual pandemic at hand. However, they still remained engaged with their followers by posting tons of stories on Instagram and Facebook rather than blasting out specific posts branded in a different way. What they've been posting in their Instagram and Facebook stories are reposts from humanitarian organizations like the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and tons of others. Their brand is somewhat disconnected, but they're providing a lot of valuable content that people are most likely more interested in looking at than perhaps a photo of a CocaCola can. However, their logo and their brand is still on every single one of those stories that they're reposting. And especially with more people on Instagram than ever. I mean, I'm sure if you have Instagram, you've been watching far more Instagram stories than you ever have before. Because people are just spending more time on the app. They're right at the top. You open it up, you click on it. It's real easy to click through a bunch of those things. So by posting, 8, 10, 12 stories a day, reposting these hopeful and community building articles from reputable organizations, Coca-Cola is putting solid, valuable information in the hands of their followers, all the while keeping their brand up in that upper left-hand corner and in front of people's eyes. So both brands found a unique way to stay connected and interact with their followers throughout this time, albeit different approaches, but this will ensure the continued success of their social media accounts moving forward.
So Coke and Pepsi obviously took two different approaches. We think these are both actually two great examples of things that other brands could be doing as well in a similar vein. One is to focus more on sponsoring other people in the world, recognizing that at this time, humanitarian organizations might have a bigger role to play and promoting them through their platform. I think that's a great take by Coke. And as far as what Pepsi's doing, also very good as well. They're sponsoring events that matter. They're promoting positive messaging. One of their messaging is one world together at home. So obviously acknowledging what's going on, but continuing to stay engaged. And it's very important that for each unique business, you kind of discover what marketing tone works, because obviously depending on your product, depending on your brand, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. And again, this is what we said at the beginning, is it's a tricky time and no one knows exactly what's going to work best. But like we've said, the most important thing is that you try something, is that you continue to engage with your fans. You'd be surprised that people probably won't be as offended as you might think, and instead would probably appreciate some nice messaging. One theme that we've definitely seen in general is this word together. You can see that both Pepsi and Coca-Cola have used this word, and this is definitely a theme that's been pretty effective in a lot of larger brands' marketing and smaller brands as well. This idea of togetherness, of in it together, these types of words are very good and very important because it basically says the message of, okay, our brand is still here and we're here to help. And those two sort of things together are a great way to continue interacting with fans and continue maintaining a solid brand image during something like this in a global pandemic.
Especially when things do start to open up again and life does start to return back to normal, the brands that have been posting and interacting with their followers on a consistent basis throughout this entire pandemic will drastically outperform all of those that didn't. Because a lot of people went dark when all of this stuff went down. A lot of companies went dark, especially on their social medias. But the names and the brands that you're going to think of and remember when things start to open up again, when it's time to go spend more money, are going to be the names and brands that you were used to seeing throughout the entire pandemic. If you're spending a lot of time on social media, it makes sense that if you're seeing posts from one account over and over and over again, you're not seeing anything from another, and you've got to go buy something from either Coke or Pepsi, you're going to pick the one that has been showing up in your feed on a daily basis. Even subconsciously, it's going to be at the front of your mind versus a different brand that if they haven't been posting, you might not have even thought about existing for a month or two.
And I want to throw in a personal theory or a personal sort of curiosity that I have here at the end. Now, disclaimer, this is totally a personal sort of hypothesis, but it's going to be really interesting. I'm very curious to see sort of what happens in the aftermath of this pandemic, seeing if these brands that have maintained their social media presence do kind of solidify their power in a sense. And this is why I'm also a big advocate that smaller businesses have social media presences, because for me, I'm a big believer in smaller businesses and I'm a big believer in competition. And I really see that these brands, these larger brands that got the budget to be putting all of their efforts into social, they're really getting in the minds of everybody and they're really coming out on top. And so I think it's very important, especially if you're running, a smaller business, even a medium-sized business for that matter. It's very important that you are still promoting your stuff on social media, because if you want to be in the head of the next generation of everyone that's using social media, you need to be posting. And I'm very curious to see what happens coming out of this, if there are some brands that kind of go down and if those people did not post as much and weren't as active on social media. That will definitely be something that we'll be looking for, and we'll keep you updated to see if my hypothesis pans out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how that pans out. But as we saw with Hertz, while taking an extended break from social media, especially in times like this when everything's going crazy, it might seem like the easiest option. It will definitely have significant adverse effects on your company's online brand and their ability to have continued success on social media moving forward.
And that's where we're going to wrap things up. Make sure you follow us on all of our social platforms. We upload weekly podcasts every Tuesday. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Times Are Changing podcast, and we'll see you next week.
If you enjoyed listening to this week's podcast, please check us out on social media, Instagram at Golden Aspect Media. If you want to learn more about what our company can do for your business, please check out our website, www.goldenaspect.com. We offer everything from content creation, social media account management, to digital ad marketing campaigns.
Look, if you made it this far, you're obviously interested in this stuff. And are you doing it? Is your company doing it? If you're not, you really should be, because you're missing out, and we're here to help. So send us a message, send us an email, give us a call. We'll be here.